I decided to follow the same pattern as my previous video, which involved digging into the archives and revisiting some past prognostications. This isn't an attempt to trap anyone or to gloat with an "I told you so" attitude. It's simply a way to change the pace a little. It's the holiday season. The goal is to have a good time. I'm not sure what everyone's Thanksgiving schedule looks like. I can recall from my own life instances where I had absolutely nothing on the calendar. I've either been stuck working or found myself thousands of miles away from any family, leaving me entirely by myself. It's just one of those situations. So, whether your day is packed with activity or you're looking at a quiet one and just want some media to consume, something to watch and engage with, I thought I'd put this together so you all would have a piece of content to view and interact with. Now, if you're seeing this, it means I've already finished recording and uploading a couple of other videos, one dealing with the Mahomes Mountain concept, and another covering the bold AFC and NFC predictions from another analyst. All that entertaining material. At this moment, we're shifting our focus to Nick Wright's team tiers from the outset of the regular season. We've uncovered some absolute treasures here. We have gems like the Indianapolis Colts positioned at the absolute base alongside the New Orleans Saints, and the Carolina Panthers aren't far above them. Well, they're not at the very rock bottom, but the Colts' placement is particularly egregious. Get it together, Arch. Seriously, sort it out. He's insinuating the Colts are so profoundly bad that they're a lock to draft Arch Manning. A conclusion I'm not entirely sold on either. But the Colts, the same Colts that the three-time defending AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs needed an overtime period, an extra period of football, to defeat. This supposedly wretched, miserable, awful football team. I'm not convinced. It's peculiar. Strangely fashionable, one might say. Oddly en vogue. His take on the Seattle Seahawks demonstrates a complete lack of belief in Sam Darnold and that Seahawks roster, a team he would, just a few weeks later, anoint as the premier squad in the entire NFL, placing them at the peak of his tiers. That is remarkably compelling. Genuinely fascinating. The Minnesota Vikings have clearly been struggling. As for the Dallas Cowboys, have they managed to right the ship? They are undoubtedly not performing as poorly as the Las Vegas Raiders. That much is certain. I believe we can all agree on that. The Washington Commanders are obviously dealing with significant injury woes, but Dallas is a better team than Washington. They are superior to the Minnesota Vikings. I would likely favor them over the Jacksonville Jaguars at this juncture, even with the Jags occupying a playoff position, and certainly over the Raiders. I believe the Raiders have been formally eliminated from postseason contention, a point Nick himself has conceded. He had them pegged to make the playoffs, finishing second in their division. They did not accomplish that. They might very well end up with the second worst record in the league, perhaps even the very worst when all is said and done, but they are definitively not second in their division, and they are not participating in the playoffs. Observe how low the New England Patriots are on this list. Just look at their placement. They are situated below the San Francisco 49ers, below the Los Angeles Chargers, below the Cincinnati Bengals, below the Chicago Bears, below the Houston Texans, below the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They defeated the Buccaneers. They are below the Los Angeles Rams, the Green Bay Packers, and so on. But note the vast chasm between them and the Buffalo Bills. They beat the Bills. It's insane. Truly ludicrous. And he still refuses to place any faith in those Denver Broncos. I mean, consider the Chargers. They've been decimated by injuries. So what can you really do about that? The Bengals have lost Joe Burrow. The 49ers were hit hard by the injury bug and are still managing to stay competitive, which is fairly impressive. And the Texans? I just don't know. It's incredibly difficult to decipher what is happening in Houston, especially since they've started to notch a few victories now with Davis Mills playing after C.J. Stroud's injury. So you're left scratching your head. How does one fully make sense of that situation right now? It's impossible. It's a little complicated at the moment. A tad perplexing. The Chicago Bears, of course, have a considerable amount of momentum built up. They have a game on Friday against the Philadelphia Eagles. That contest will be very revealing, without a doubt. The dangerous in the dance Tampa Bay Buccaneers? I don't see it. I absolutely do not agree with that characterization. They too are now clearly hampered by injuries. They began the year with a nice little hot streak, but began to fizzle out as the weeks progressed. Now, with the injuries accumulating and Baker Mayfield not at full health, it's a difficult spot. It is interesting to observe his stance on the Los Angeles Rams. He has been carrying on lately as if he was a true believer in Matthew Stafford and the Rams from the very beginning. Yet, he had them ranked below the Packers, below the Lions, below the Washington Commanders, the Buffalo Bills, and the Baltimore Ravens. Now he's talking as if he's proclaiming, "I told you Stafford and the Rams were going to be an elite, special, top-tier team in the NFL." It's like, excuse me? You had them first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. You had them ninth. You had them in ninth place. You do not get to claim the Rams as your own prescient call. Get out of here with that. Absolutely not. He thought the Detroit Lions were going to take a significant step backwards, which was a reasonable take at the time, but he had the Rams rated below the Lions. It doesn't add up. The logic isn't there. But then, in a strange contradiction, he had the Buccaneers making the Super Bowl, yet they are positioned as inferior to both the Lions and the Packers. I don't follow. I simply don't understand the reasoning. Again, the Commanders are injured. What can you do? Now, the Packers are also dealing with injuries, but even when they were at full strength, they didn't quite look like the team they were projected to be. It's a bit of a puzzling situation there. The Lions are definitely navigating some coaching issues of their own, along with injuries. It seems like every team is battling the injury report to some degree right now. The Bills have not truly performed like a top 3 team. And the Ravens, again, are obviously dealing with significant injuries as well. And the Kansas City Chiefs, were they ever in second place? Were they ever considered a top 2 team at any point during the course of the season? I'm not certain they were, not even once. Perhaps they were viewed that way before week 1, but as soon as the regular season commenced, the answer was no. Have they even technically, from a standings perspective, been in a playoff position? Were they ever technically holding at least a 7th seed? I'm not sure. You'd have to examine the standings week by week. My instinct tells me they have never officially been in the playoff picture. If the season had concluded after week 4, or week 2, or week 9, I don't believe they would have been included. The Philadelphia Eagles were at the summit of the NFC, then they just lost to the Cowboys, obviously, and now they've slipped to second. I'm not convinced they deserve to be at the pinnacle of the tiers right now. I can comprehend why they would have been placed there heading into the season, but definitely not at this moment, given how their offensive line has been performing and the struggles in their running game. There are also offensive coordination issues at play. We will have to observe how that situation continues to develop. But, yeah, look, it's not the most inaccurate set of tiers, but you can clearly see the rankings that are particularly glaring to me. The ones that really stand out the most are smaller details, like the placements of the Seahawks and the Colts. It's just genuinely humorous when you consider how well they have performed and how successful they've been. Even the Panthers quietly exceeding expectations. I'm curious to know what the common criticisms of this list are at the moment. Nick's affection for Trevor, Nick's unwavering fondness for Trevor Lawrence, is a massive blind spot in his analysis. What does he want? To elevate the New York Giants and simultaneously demote Trevor. Trevor has not performed well this season. The Jaguars have discovered ways to win a handful of games, but it is not because the so-called prince who was promised is making spectacular plays. My colleague was genuinely high on the Giants. The Giants just became the 8th team since 2009 to outscore their preseason opponents by a minimum of 60 points. Of the previous 7 teams to accomplish this, 6 made the playoffs, 2 won the Super Bowl, and they averaged 11.1 wins. Russell Wilson was the quarterback for 2 of those 7 teams. That's actually a somewhat astonishing statistic. I didn't remember that. However, Russell Wilson is not the quarterback of the New York Giants. And Russell Wilson did not look impressive in his stint with the Giants. He had that one respectable performance against the Dallas Cowboys, and then he proceeded to collapse. So no. That argument doesn't hold water. What does my other colleague have? Raiders need to move down. He was correct. He was absolutely right about that. He was also advocating for Geno Smith and the Seahawks, and he was right. He was 1,000% accurate on that front. Attaboy. My assumption, without even checking, is that our other contributor is going to have a comment about the Patriots. Oh, so the Raiders need to be moved down. The Pittsburgh Steelers need to be moved up. That is also a correct assessment. Again, my colleague is having a stellar day with his accurate predictions. It's got to be about the Patriots, no? Well, wow, it's Panthers over Jags. No, he was right about moving the Panthers up, but not to a position above the Jaguars. The Panthers are clearly better than the company they are keeping in that bottom tier. They are demonstrably better than the Saints, the Cleveland Browns, the Tennessee Titans, the New York Jets, the Miami Dolphins, and the Giants, right? They definitely weren't being moved up, weirdly enough. But yes, did the Panthers lose to the Jaguars in Week 1? I believe they did. So, there you have the evidence. All in all, it's not the most disastrous set of tiers. It might even be one of the more reasonable rankings from that analyst, though for some reason these feel strangely less biased and more grounded in reality, albeit with a few conspicuous errors. The Broncos are obviously ranked far too low. The Colts are positioned way too low. The Seahawks are placed way too low. The Chiefs are ranked way too high. Yeah, interesting. Very interesting. It feels as though if you had tempered some of your personal biases, you would have been capable of elevating the Colts. You would have been able to elevate the Seahawks, and then this entire list could have been significantly more precise. A whole lot more accurate. It could have been almost spot on. This is precisely why you must check your biases. You have to be cautious. You cannot simply seek out information that confirms your pre-existing beliefs. But those are merely my personal reflections. I am absolutely eager to hear yours. What do you all think about Nick Wright's tiers? His initial tier rankings for the 2025 season. Let me reiterate, none of this is intended as a gotcha or anything of that nature. It's all supposed to be in the spirit of fun and Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone! But please let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I read every single comment. So, whether you find yourself in agreement with me or you fundamentally disagree, let's get some conversations started. Let's get into some spirited debates. But when it's all said and done, let's just have an enjoyable time. And please do consider subscribing to the channel. We are in the process of building a wonderful community here, and I would absolutely love to see you become a part of it. I want to construct something that we all feel a genuine connection to, something that we are truly thrilled to be involved with. I believe we are well on our journey to achieving that. Please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it genuinely assists with visibility and the platform's algorithm. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.